Hey guys, hello and welcome. I hope everyone's doing very well. I have a different setup. I feel like I got a different setup in every single video. I've been pretty inconsistent too, so sorry about that. I filmed another video on orchids. I'm really not sure at the time of filming this if I've actually uploaded that, but hopefully I uploaded that and I don't know, you'll see it eventually probably. This over here is Aglaonema or Chinese Evergreen. The specific variety I have here is called Pink Dalmatian. It's my favorite one. It's just got really stunning variegation. Yeah. So these guys over here are also known as Chinese Evergreens. They're in the Araceae family or aroids. Um, I actually had something that I wanted to say. Just a sec. I'll get into that later. I'm going to talk a little bit about their reproduction too. I wanted to show you this particular plant because it has two things going for it right now. A, it's blooming. I really wanted to show you guys what a spadex and what the flower structure of an aroid looks like. And B, it has some glaciation, which basically means I overwatered it and the cells are starting to lyse. And yeah, that's common in like really thin-leaved crops such as lettuce, but I really wanted to show you what happens when you underwater these. Like, I don't know if you can see my finger through the leaf. It gets really thin. If you ever see that on your plants, that's just because you've overwatered them 99% of the time. So yeah, these guys are native to Indonesia, Thailand, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, Southeast Asian kind of islands, Bougainville, as well as Myanmar or Burma, those kinds of areas. They like it to be very humid in their natural habitat, but they're very adaptable plants. So if you don't have very high humidity where you live in your house, 50-60% humidity is more than fine. These guys do benefit from being like in a bathroom or a place in your house where you have a little bit more humidity. They'll grow a lot quicker for you. I don't know if you can hear, there's a motorcycle going by. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to say about Aglaonemas and Chinese evergreens in general is they come in so many different shapes and forms. I know the Silver Bay is a really, really common variety. It's got longer leaves, they got like silver in the middle. There's also Aglaonema Siam Aurora, which has a whole bunch of different colors. It's more of a pointy leaf, really beautiful. But this video applies to all Aglaonemas just in general. And they like really porous, well-draining soil. I grow mine in a mixture of perlite, vermiculite, and cocoa coir because it's very fibrous and it doesn't hold water too much. These guys do like drying out a little bit in between waterings is another thing I'll say. If you want to coax them into blooming, you definitely want to hold back on water for a little amount of time, just kind of generate a bit of a stress response in the plant, and then it'll grow this generative bloom growth. The blooms on most aroids typically are odorless. They don't really smell like anything. Some of them smell of carrion, like rotting flesh, because they attract flies. These guys here, for this particular variety, they don't really smell like anything. I think it's very similar to a spathiphyllum, actually, peace lily. Now, one thing I wanted to say is that these plants are dichogamous. They have dichogamy, which means that each plant is heterosexual, meaning that it has both male and female reproductive parts. This is very common, kind of a general rule of thumb with the vast majority of aroids and members of the Araceae family, Dieffenbachias, Dumpcanes, plants like that. A lot of your tropical plants, even caladiums, are going to be dichogamous. So that means that you have this spathe, which is this back part, and then you're going to have male flowers on the top, and female flowers on the bottom. That does not want to focus, but you get the idea. So the male flowers are going to emerge after the female flowers on this particular variety. If I remember that correctly, I think that's right. Um, this is basically a natural block for self-fertilization. Because if you only have one plant and it pollinates itself, a lot of the offspring are going to be either non-viable, they're not going to germinate for you, or the resulting hybrid's going to have lots of deformity. Think about it like inbreeding in humans. You need like more genetic diversity to ensure that you're not going to have a whole host of disorders when the baby's born, right? It's the same thing with Aglaonema. If you notice that your variegation's going down a little bit, give it a little bit more light. They do tend to grow a little bit more green when you don't have as direct light. I have this guy growing in a kind of western exposed window. Generally speaking, a good filtered light is fine. They don't like direct light, they do burn quite readily. I don't know if you saw over here on this poor leaf here. Got a little bit of leaf burn. That's because it was in the window for a little bit too long. If you want to propagate these, you can propagate them from little pups or stem cuttings. This is very suitable for air layering, by the way. Water propagation, if you want to grow these guys like you're growing a stick of bamboo, that also works very fine. These plants are toxic. I do not recommend giving these to your kids or your pets or anything like that. They do have calcium oxalate, which is a pretty common theme among lots of aroids and tropical plants. So you just want to be careful with that. And they have a very fine fibrous root system. If you're going to transplant these, they like to be a little bit pot bound. You don't want to, unless it's growing really profusely, you don't want to replant these guys like every, I don't know, year. I don't think they really need it. If you're repotting, I recommend going up about an inch in diameter just to avoid transplant shock. I feed these every single Friday with a well-balanced 20-10-20 liquid feed fertilizer from Miracle Grow that I get. And that's probably the only reason why this guy's blooming for me. The blooms last a really long time. Excuse me. This bloom has been on here for over a month, which is kind of incredible to me. And sometimes you see either fasciation or antiquing on the blooms, which basically means the spathe here will actually start to photosynthesize. So if you're not expecting berries, if you don't want to reproduce this plant, it's still a pretty good idea to keep these on Aglaonemas specifically. What else should I say? I don't know. It's good to be here. I don't know if I've actually put out that video on the orchids, but I'm really happy about that one because I have a whole bunch of people just asking me for a video on orchids, and I keep procrastinating. I got so much work going on, but yeah, hopefully that'll come out soon. Yeah, I don't know. I have to be more consistent. I say that every single time I film. I'm so sorry, you guys, but thank you for being here. And another thing I want to say is this guy is more of a tall Aglaonema. Most of them are kind of mounding and spreading kind of like a bush. This one in particular does grow pretty tall. It can get pretty leggy. If it's too leggy for you, just cut off the top few inches, few nodes. Like that's fine. It'll regenerate from here, and then up here you can just have another top cutting. Maybe give it to your friends. Because sharing's caring, right? So yeah, have a beautiful day, you guys. This guy, highly recommend it. Aglaonemas in general, they're pretty low light. Have a beautiful day, and I think I'm gonna film another video right after this because I finally have some free time. And yeah, stay blessed. Yeah.